Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video, and welcome to the first vlog of this year's Victober. So it is the 1st of October, the first day of Victober, and I am excited about doing some reading for Victober. I have already done a little bit of reading today. It's just early in the afternoon now, and I did a lunchtime live reading sprint, which was really fun, and got a little bit of reading done then, and I also got a little bit of audiobook listening done earlier in the morning too. So I have already started a few things. I thought I would talk through what I'm currently reading, and then, you know, we'll continue with the rest of the vlog. So I did start one book for Victober a little bit early, and that is The Hand of Ethelberta by Thomas Hardy, which I'm listening to on audiobook. This is October's book for the Thomas Hardy Readalong, being hosted by Jen the Librarian. I'll leave her channel link down below. This is a really fun read along. We're reading all of Thomas Hardy in publication order. This is a reread for me, and I'm really enjoying it, and the audiobook is great so far. So I'm a few hours into that, really enjoying it. We'll continue with that. And then I also started an audiobook this morning, Hester by Margaret Oliphant, which is the group read. I'm gonna try and stick to the schedule for Hester, and just read 2 chapters a day, which should also fit in quite well with me listening to both Hester and The Hand of Ethelberta at the same time. Once I finish The Hand of Ethelberta, I am also going to start listening to Shirley by Charlotte Bronte, which I thought would be absolutely fine to listen to at the same time as I'm listening to Hester. And then I realised the audiobooks I have of Shirley and Hester have the same narrator, so I feel like that may go badly, but we'll see. I mean, I've read them both before, so I'm not going to get confused between the 2 books, but I feel like it will be disorientating to listen to 2 books read by the same person at the same time. But, you know, I'll work that out when I get there. I'm buddy reading Shirley with Emily from Novella Novels. And then in terms of physical reads, during the reading sprints, I read a few poems from A Minor Poet, Another Verse by Amy Levy, who's a Victorian writer I really like. I've read lots of her prose before, so it's really nice to read some of her poetry. I read 2 pretty long poems from this morning, one of which was about the death of a poet, and one of which was about Socrates' wife. So that was a bit unexpected, but kind of interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest. I think that the further on I go in this collection, the shorter the poems become. In general, I don't always know how I feel about long poems, but I quite like these, so I'm enjoying that so far. And then I have also started reading The MacDermots of Ballycloran by Anthony Trollope. I'm about 3 chapters in, really enjoying this so far. I'm buddy reading this with Faith and Books, and I'm a little bit behind where I should be. We were going to start on Sunday and I failed to start until today, so I need to catch up, but that's fine. I love Anthony Trollope. I will get through a bit more of this evening, I hope. I'm out this evening, so I won't get that much reading done, but I will get a little bit of reading done on my way. And then tomorrow I'm also out in the evening after work, but I have a very long train journey to what I'm doing tomorrow, which I'll tell you about tomorrow, I guess, or Friday, because it's a bookish thing, but I will get some reading done on the train to that. So yeah, in the meantime, I finished up the reading sprints, and I need to get back to work. I don't know how my Victober is going to go because I am really busy work-wise at the moment. And I feel like fitting in reading is not going to be super easy. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling excited for Victober today anyway. And yeah. Okay, that's it for now, and I'll check in again soon. Hello again, it is the 2nd day of Victober, and I've just finished reading A Minor Poet, Another Verse by Amy Levy, which I loved. This was so good. Yeah. I feel like I was less ecstatically positive about it when I mentioned it yesterday, because I think at that point I'd read like 3 poems, and I would say the 2nd and 3rd poems in this collection are my least favourite, but actually the whole collection was really good, and there were some fantastic poems in here. Some pretty sad and grim ones. some really powerful ones, quite a lot about death, but in a very effective way, quite a lot about like ancient Greece and the past, quite a lot of sort of love poems and sort of unrequited desperate love poems. And yeah, I just thought this was fantastic. Really, really good like rhythm and rhyme, really powerful lines, and I just really enjoyed it. I have immediately gone and ordered for myself another collection of Amy Levy's poetry. I think it's called The Plane Tree and Other Poems, and I think I have read the poem The Plane Tree and maybe a couple of others from that collection, I can't remember, but I've ordered myself a copy of that in this edition too, because I just really want to read more by her, because this was so great. I was thinking actually I have read Amy Levy's 3 novels and 1 poetry collection by her, and if I read that other one, I think I will have read most of what she wrote. I think maybe there's a 3rd poetry collection too, but maybe I should do a author spotlight on her, because I think she was a really, really fantastic author, and a very interesting author too. She had a very sad life. She died by suicide at 27, so she didn't write that much. Obviously she didn't live that long, and by all accounts she suffered with a lot of depression throughout her life, and I think you can tell that by the sort of tone of some of the poems. She was also a queer woman, and some of the poems in this collection are love poems to women, which obviously, like, reading in the Victorian age, I think readers would have interpreted as being from a male persona, like from a male narrator's perspective, but I don't really think they are, so that's quite interesting too. And in general, I just thought this was a really great collection. So yes, am I going to read you a poem? I'll read a very short one. Quite a lot of them are quite long, but there's one that's only 6 lines and gives you a sense of the tone, but also the power of Amy Levy's poetry. So, A Crossroad Epitaph. When first the world grew dark to me, I called on God, yet came not he. Whereon, as wearier waxed my lot, on love I called, but love came not. When a worse evil did befall, death, on the only did I call. In general, I'm not someone who spends a lot of time like reading bits about writers' lives into their work, and interpreting authors' work through their lives, but I do think that is a very powerful and sad poem to read kind of in light of her suicide. But yeah, I thought this was a fantastic collection, and as I said, Amy Levy is really worth a read. I have really enjoyed her work so far, so yeah, I should do a video on Amy Levy. Maybe I will do that this Victober. I'm still listening to Hester, still listening to The Hand of Ethelberta, still reading the Macdermots of Valley Cloran. I haven't made that much progress with those things, but I will let you know when I do later on in the week. Hello again, it is Sunday the 5th of October. I feel like I haven't had much of a chance to sit down and film or to sit down and read for the past few days, but there we go. Just been a very, very busy week. Work is just very, very busy at the moment. I think I thought when I filmed my Victober TBR that it would be the second half of October that would be really busy, but it's turned out to be the first half of October that's really busy, but anyway, it's fine. I have been doing some audiobook listening, so I'm still really enjoying Hester, and I've also started listening to Shirley by Charlotte Bronte, really enjoying that too. I feel like 3 audiobooks on the go is slightly too many, so I feel like I need to finish off The Hand of Ethelberta soon, but anyway, I'm really enjoying all 3. And then I have still been reading the Macdermots of Ballycloran, which I'm really, really liking. Really interesting anti-Trollope book, and really interesting. So it was published during the Irish famine in the 1840s, but it's set the decade before. But Trollope does like look quite a lot at poverty in Ireland, and how much of that is also potentially caused by English landlords who don't live in Ireland or know anything about Ireland. And I feel like that is really interesting, and like he obviously was making a particular point with a book published during the Irish famine, even if it was set beforehand. Yeah, so I'm really interested to see how this continues to go. We sort of have this family with a son and daughter, and the daughter is sort of engaged to a young man, but maybe his intentions aren't as correct as they should be, and we're kind of following the drama around that. And yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot so far. So that's my kind of main physical read. And I'm about to do some live reading sprints this evening. I feel like the only time I've managed to actually sit down and read has been for reading sprints lately, but at least it's a good, like, dedicated reading time. So I'm hoping to read some more chapters of the Macdermots of Ballycloran, and if I catch up on my sort of buddy read schedule, I'm buddy reading this with Faith and Books, then I might start reading The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen, which I'm really excited for, and is quite short, and I think will be really fun. So Looking forward to that. And then did I have anything else to say? Oh yes, I said on Thursday that I was doing something exciting on Thursday evening. Or was that on Wednesday? Anyway, on Thursday evening I went to a book launch for this book, not Victorian, but I'm just sneaking this into a Victober video anyway. So this is Encounters with Jane Austen, which is an anthology full of various essays and poems and stories and things about Jane Austen. And I have an essay in here about Jane Austen, and this essay is kind of about like how I slowly came to regard Jane Austen as one of my favourite authors after not necessarily initially loving all her work that much. And yeah, I'm really excited to read all of this and see what everyone else had to say in this book. I feel like I'll be reading this in November after Victober is done, but I think this will be really fun. And yeah, I will leave some links down below if you want to know more. I really enjoyed the event. There were quite a few other contributors there, including Jenny Batchelor, who wrote the introduction, who's an expert in Jane Austen. And I really enjoyed her interview. And yeah, that was really fun. I meant to vlog some of it and I just forgot entirely. I didn't even vlog any of me travelling to the event, which I usually try and do when I do these things, and I just completely forgot. That's the kind of week it's been. But anyway, it's fine. I'm looking forward to doing some reading this evening, and I will check in again soon. Hello, good afternoon. I've just been doing a little bit of reading on my lunch break. I'm very busy with work right now, so I am working lots of evenings. So I'm trying to make sure I do have a lunch break, as I'm not really stopping work at a reasonable time. There we go. I love being freelance. There's a lot of great things about it, but you have no set working hours. And if you're busy, you're just working all the time, which is fine. I don't mind doing that sometimes. I don't do it all the time. I give myself time back in lieu, but I do wish I hadn't been quite so busy in Victober because there's so many things I want to read. But anyway, if I read lots of my Victober TBR in November, that's fine. So what I did want to actually say today is some more about the McDermotts of Ballycloran, which I'm now halfway through and really, really loving. I mean, I always love Anthony Trollope, but this is great. I feel like I'm surprised by how good this one is, by how little I hear it spoken about. And also because it's his debut novel, and I feel like his second and third novel I thought were fine, but I didn't love, but I am really loving this. I mean, there's still half a book to go. Who knows how it will resolve. But so far, I think this is really fantastic and a really interesting debut novel for Anthony Trollope, and a really quite a brave social critique novel for the time he wrote it. I feel like it's more of a social critique novel than Anthony Trollope always is. Is that true? Anthony Trollope does have lots of social critique themes within his work, but I feel like this is more passionately a social critique novel, perhaps, than some of his books are. And it's quite sort of socially and historically interesting, I suppose. This book was, I assume, primarily written for an English audience, though Anthony Trollope was living in Ireland at the time. But in England, in the Victorian period, there was a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment. It's quite cool to see Anthony Trollope in the 1840s writing a novel in which the closest the book has to a hero is a Catholic priest. What else did I have to say about this book? It's been really interesting to kind of watch the plot develop. I would say the sort of central action revolves around these two young people, a brother and sister, who are in danger of falling into bad circumstances in two very different ways, and we're following them and also their priest, Father John, who is trying to stop them falling into these dangerous circumstances and is trying very, very hard to keep them on the right path. And I'm really interested to see how the novel progresses. It's very hard to tell whether this is going to be like a terrible tragedy or things will be okay. I don't know, but it's so good so far and I'm really, really enjoying it. So yes, hurrah for Anthony Trollope. Have I read much else? No, I have still been listening to my 3 audiobooks. Well, I've kind of put The Hand of Ethelberta on pause while I catch up on my buddy read and group read for the other 2. And then I will see how I go. Anyway, I've been rambling on for quite long enough now, so I will stop and I will check in again soon. Hello again. It is now the 7th of October, and on my lunch break I thought it would be fun to read a play because I feel like I just haven't had quite enough time to read and I'm not making that much progress through all the sort of longer things that I'm reading. So I thought, I know, I'll read something very, very short. I have a 1-act play on my Victober TBR, Alan's Wife. So I'll give that a read. And I read that on my lunch break and I kind of wish I hadn't. It was quite traumatic. It was so grim. I don't think I would recommend it because it's so upsetting. And I also feel like its message is concerning. I had a lot of problems with it. I thought it was well written. Like I thought the dialogue was really good. And for the first scene of the 1-act play, it has 3 scenes. For the first scene, I was like, oh, isn't it nice to be reading a play again? I love reading dialogue. And then the plot happens. Yeah. I had in my head that this was a play about divorce. I don't know why. It's not a play about divorce. I feel like I can't really explain what the play is about without massive spoilers. Basically, at the beginning, we are following a young woman who is relatively newly married and she's having a conversation with her mother and then things happen. I will put some content warnings down below in the description because it's massive spoilers to talk about what the play is about, but I also feel like you might want to know what the play is about before you read it because, as I said, it is exceptionally traumatic. To be that emotionally impactful in 50 pages is quite impressive, but also, as I said, I feel like I have some concerns about the messages of the play. Not especially surprising considering when the play was written, but still, yeah. That was an intense read. So that was a strange lunch break, but there we go. I'm gonna go back to work now. I think Milena's doing some reading sprints tonight and I know I won't be able to join in for the whole thing, but I might try and have a break, have half an hour off work and read a little bit of the McDermott's Ballycloran. So yeah, that is all for now and I guess I will check in again tomorrow. I really like this mug, but also the way that it feels natural for me to hold it means you can't see the excellent message on the other side, which is tea makes everything better. And it does. Okay, right, what was I actually going to say? I think I am going to wrap up this vlog here because it's already 20 minutes long in my editing software. And also tomorrow is the 10th of October, so we're, you know, just under a third of the way through October, and I usually try and do like 3 vlogs for a readathon. So in the first third of October, what have I achieved in terms of my Victober reading? Not that much. So I finished off 2 things, which is good, but they were both exceptionally short. So I read Amy Levy's poetry collection, A Minor Poet and Other Verse, and the play Alan's Wife by Elizabeth Robbins and Florence Bell. Are those the right people? Yes, they are the right people. I'm impressed with my memory. So those 2 books between them, both of them in fact tick off the same 2 challenges, just, you know, to be annoying. So they tick off the challenges to read a work by a less known woman writer, so Elizabeth's challenge, and also my challenge to read a work of Victorian literature that is not a novel. So I ticked off 2 challenges so far, and if I'm hoping to get to 10, you know, I need to get a move on. However, I am also more than halfway through. Yeah, I'm like 2/3 of the way through the McDermott's Ballycloran by Anthony Trollope, which I'm loving. It's so good. This would definitely count for Kate's challenge to read a book about friendship, and also I would kind of count it for Catherine's challenge to read a book that has a connection to Jane Austen, because Anthony Trollope loved Jane Austen and is quite similar to Jane Austen in some ways, although this is not a very Jane Austen-esque Anthony Trollope, so maybe it doesn't really count. It's fine. I think this would also actually count for Marissa's challenge, which is to read a book where a character experiences a change in status, because there is quite a lot of like class stuff going on in here. And hopefully I'll finish that in the next week, because I'm really, really loving it. I'm also probably like a third of the way through 3 different audiobooks. The Hand of Ethelberta by Thomas Hardy, which again would definitely count for Marissa's challenge. And then I'm also listening to Hester by Margaret Oliphant, the group read. Hester would count for both Elizabeth's challenge to read a work by a lesser-known woman writer, and also for Catherine's challenge to read a book with a connection to Jane Austen, as Margaret Oliphant is very Jane Austen-esque, I would say, and wrote some essays and stuff in her life about Jane Austen. I'm really, really loving Hester so far. I think it's so great. I mean, I have read it before. All 3 of my audiobooks are rereads, which is why I don't really mind that I'm listening to 3 at the same time and skipping between them, because I know them all relatively well. And then the final audiobook is Shirley by Charlotte Bronte, which again would count for the prompt of friendship and probably class status as well. But yeah, that was just a brief rambling look back on the first 10 days of Victober. It's been fun. I'm really having a good time so far. Despite not having had as much time to read as I would like, I have really enjoyed what I've been reading so far, with the exception of Alan's Wife. But anyway, also, I'm just loving the McDermotts and Victorian. You know, every time I read an Anthony Trollope book, I just have such a good time. Like, even when I'm worried and things are stressful or the themes are dark, I still am just having the loveliest of times. What can I say? I just love Anthony Trollope a lot. Okay, I feel like this is really descending into rambling, so I am going to stop this video now. Do let me know down in the comments, how have your first 10 days of Victober gone? What have you been reading? What have you been enjoying so far? What are you looking forward to in the next 2/3 of the month? Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another Victober video.